We'll get started if everybody's settled. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I know the roads aren't that great and a little bit short notice, but this is an important thing. We're going to hear from our candidates from Selectboard. And without further ado, Nancy is going to moderate and we'll hear from the candidates.
Yeah, I was going to say that door is closed if possible.
Oh, gotta close it.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
All right.
okay.
Well, good evening. I'm Nancy Olson, and I am your moderator for this evening. It is our intent to provide an unbiased forum that will be informative for the voters, fair to each candidate, and pleasant for everyone. All candidates for an office, whether of major or minor parties or independent, should be treated alike. So please refrain from responding audibly to candidates' responses. The Putney 5-member Select Board provides general supervision of the affairs, as it says on the website, provides general supervision of the affairs of the town and must cause to be performed all duties required of the town not committed by law to the care of any particular officer. The board also enacts ordinances, regulations, and policies, and oversees roads, including the laying out, discontinuing, and reclassifying of them, and reviews the biweekly financials of the municipality. And those board members who are here may want to add to the list of the official description of what you do.
Other duties as assigned.
All other duties as assigned, right. So I'm going to introduce the candidates alphabetically by last name. I always learn to alphabetize by last name, but I've had this discussion with several people who alphabetize by the first letter of the word, so of the name. I don't get that, but anyway. So let me introduce Logan Sears here, Bex Slattery here. I'll ask each candidate to give an opening statement if they choose about what they expect to accomplish in the office. A brief biographical sketch may be part of that if they choose. And let's give them a couple of minutes each for that. So Logan, we'll start with you.
Logan Sears. I've lived in Putney since somewhere around 2014. I think I actually moved to Putney. I was in Westminster before then for a few years. And I grew up in a town named Sharon, Vermont, which is up near White River Junction. I grew up in a family that had a strong presence in town, kind of volunteering and doing a variety of things. So I have that. It's always been instilled in me, and I joined the fire department this spring, and I'm just looking to kind of continue that practice and be involved in town management and politics and do my part in helping facilitate things and run the town.
Okay, thank you. Next.
I'm Bex. I moved to Putney a little over 2 years ago. Before that, I'm from Massachusetts, and I did a fair bit of sailing, so I was sort of floating around before we landed here. I was taking care of my grandmother primarily before this. I've got 2 small kiddos, a 6 and almost 4-year-old, and we've been here for 2 years, and it feels like the fog has sort of cleared in my life, where I have capacity beyond my kids' immediate needs and adjusting to moving here, which was a hard task to accomplish. And I've been really wanting to get involved. And somebody asked me kind of casually if I would ever think about running for the select board, and I said, well, yeah, of course, wouldn't I? What, wouldn't you? And it was like, no. And no one else is. And I was like, oh, you mean right now? Okay. And then I've done a lot of research and thinking, and here I am. Pretty excited.
Well, thank you. The 2 candidates having made their statements, we'll open it up for questions.
You can come with a question.
Yes,
You're running for a 2-year term?
are the terms 3 years?
There's three-year terms and two-year terms, and they're all staggered.
Okay. So thank you for that question. So this is a 2-year term that you're running for. Okay. Janice?
I guess I would ask both candidates what in particular experience they've had or skills that they think they bring to the board. I know Bex has been watching the select board meetings, probably being in the fire department, know a lot about the town. What, particular experience and skills do you think you'll bring that will be helpful for the board, the community?
That's what I do.
I've never sat in public office in any capacity. I would say the most management background that I have is that I was a steward on tall ships, which is a lot of cooking, all of the cooking for people for 6 to 8 week trips. But there was also the stewards in charge of all of the provisioning. So that's buying enough food for about 40 people for 6 weeks at a time, 40 very hungry sailors. So it's about $18,000 to $20,000 of food and cleaning products and toilet paper. And it is the steward's primary job to manage all of that. And also on the other side of it, clearing customs and dealing with immigration, which is a very legal process of clearing every piece of food that you have on board to every country that you sail into, which in one trip could be many, depending on where you're sailing. So I'd say that was the most money in short periods that I've had to manage. I think management, that's probably my best answer I can give you.
Yeah. Logan?
Yeah, like Bex, I also have not held a public office position. Probably the experience I have that kind of pertains to most of this just comes with my work. I work for a company that has anywhere between 30 and 40 employees, board of directors, executive committee, employee ownership. So I'm an employee owner and sit on the board, and so I've done a fair bit of budgeting and number reviewing and management on that scale. It's nothing like a town, but it's probably a little glimpse of it. And I have a lot of like on the ground experience doing a variety of different things. So a lot of the conversations around the roads in town or upgrades needed on buildings, I'm going to be pretty familiar with at least the basics of what that work looks like. So.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yes, Peg.
Sitting on the select board, it's really impossible to describe what the job is because there's no other job quite like it. And I just wonder what you all have done thus far to kind of become familiar with what this job is, and what have you done to to kind of get a sense of the job?
Logan, we'll start with you.
Like Bex mentioned, been spending a lot of time on the town website, kind of watching some of the recordings. I've been going back through like select board minutes and packets and talking to a variety of people that I know around town just to get an understanding of some of what that work is. So it's just, for me, it's been a lot of that, some conversations and a lot of reviewing what I can of the meetings. I've attended a couple in person. Trying to play catch up in that fashion.
Okay.
Similar to Logan, spending a lot of time on the town website, going to all the select board meetings. I've met with current select board members, past select board members, somebody who's running for select board in another town in Vermont, really just talking to anybody that wants to talk to me about what being on the select board is like.
And what have you found out?
Well, I found out from talking to other folks that really every town is quite different, that it's a lot of work. Something I've heard from a lot of people that it's the first year is a tremendous amount of learning, which I find really encouraging because wouldn't know how to do it yet. And that I really enjoy learning and I like asking questions. But I've heard it's a lot of hard work, that you've got to have some tough skin, because people aren't always going to agree with you, which I sometimes can think can be a little bit of fun to talk to people who don't agree with you. And it sounds like really important work that I really admire.
And other questions? Yes, Arlene.
How do you deal with conflict? Because there are times, a lot of meetings are boring. Some meetings are not so boring. So how do you deal with conflict?
I would say listening is the first part. It's really easy to be thinking of your response or getting your feelings in the way of things when you're listening to somebody who doesn't agree with you, but trying really, really hard to listen as long and as hard as you can, and to not take things personal, even if they're really personal. I don't run from conflict. I have been an involved and opinionated person for most of my life. What comes of that is people telling you that they don't agree with you and how they feel. I think conflict is important. It's something you need to work through.
Logan.
Yeah, I think engaging in conversation, if both parties are open to such conversations, is super important to be able to work through that and talk through it. Sometimes that means taking a break if everyone needs to for a few minutes, but yeah, trying to just collectively work through it and have good dialogue back and forth versus some sort of explosion or argument is going to go a long ways.
Additional questions? Yes.
So this might catch you by surprise because I haven't seen you in the meetings regarding the housing solutions situation. So let's keep it a little bit general. So we're going to be looking at probably creating a vision. What is our vision for the village and the town if we were to expand commercially, business and residential, without getting into the details of how that would happen? Have you given any thought to what you envision the town the village might look like in 5 or 10 years? Do you envision something significantly different in the way traffic flows or the number of buildings of one size or another? Any thoughts on that?
And Logan, what can I do this time?
That is a good question. Yeah, I can just from the time I've been around town and most recently with the fire department, I've got a good eye-opening sense of just how much housing and like concentration there already is here in the village. It's amazing. You drive through every day and you don't see all the apartment buildings that are here. As far as a vision of what it looks like, we know that it's going to change across the street pretty dramatically, and it seems like the village in general is pretty well set up to support some growth in that fashion. And if that's kind of what's needed in town and the direction that the townspeople want to go, I feel like here in the village is a good place to do it. But as far as a vision, I don't have like a grand vision. Traffic is a concern. I can see, I don't live in town, but I can definitely see that could become an issue if things grow too much. It's already busy enough.
I would say that from everything I've heard in previous reports that I've read, that folks don't really want Putney to change a ton, but there needs to be some growth for it to stay alive and be a protected place. So I would say taking care of the infrastructure that exists is really important, and not having empty properties and maintaining empty storefronts. I feel like growing Putney, taking care of what already exists and growing modestly seems really important for the future of Putney to create revenue and taxes. But I don't think anybody who lives here or has moved here, or at least that I've talked to, wants Putney to look wildly different and to not be the sweet little Vermont town that we all love.
Thanks.
Additional questions? Okay. Yes,
What do you see as some pressing issues in Putney?
the pressing
Issues.
That's what I do this time.
Housing, I would say that housing is not just for folks who want to move in here, but folks who already are living here. I know many people who are on short-term leases who are worried about where they will go. Their kids are in Putney Central School. I think housing is a tough one. The next flood or crisis, how will Putney recover? If there's federal funding or not, how do we take care of each other and ourselves? I would say those are probably the first two things that come to mind.
I think big one that we all are well aware of is taxes and what we all just experienced in the last year. I think it's a big issue and it's going to continue to be. No town, no business, no one's going to escape the rising costs of everything around us. So I think that's a big thing that we're all going to be thinking about. I would second the natural disaster, the infrastructure. We've had some hard hits the last couple of years and it's only going to get worse.
Other questions? Yes, Janice.
Have you had experience, either of you, working on a team? And what have been the positive? Because I think of the Selectboard as a team of 5 people that have different points of view and different life experiences. And it's important to find a way to work together. So I'm curious to know if you had experience, either of you, working on a team, and what have been the positive experiences and what have been maybe the drawbacks. All teams aren't perfect and they don't always achieve what they're set out to do. So I'm interested in that.
I think I've lost track, but I think we're starting with Logan this time.
Again, the bulk of mine is going to come from my job. The management structure of my company is not like a hierarchy. It's definitely a group effort, and so pretty much every decision that's made is a group decision. So I've spent a lot of time having lots of discussions around big and small issues, HR issues, equipment purchases, that kind of thing. Being on the fire department for since the spring is a big team effort. Nothing happens here at the department without a solid team, and so that's been a learning experience as well, because you're working with a team in situations where you don't get the chance to stop and think for a minute, and so it's been quite an experience.
I think working on boats for me, we'd always say shipmate, self. You take care of the ship, she takes care of you, and you don't really have to think of yourself because everyone else is taking care of their shipmates. I really like teamwork. I think it pushes me to think about things beyond myself and my own scope. I really like working as a team.
Janice, did you ask about challenges?
Yeah, I was wondering, if you've been on teams that haven't worked, or what do you see the challenges of a team? I mean, you make it sound like it's all great. I've been on a lot of teams. I happen to be on a great team right now at the library, but so I'm just curious about if you've had negative experiences and what were they and how do you handle that?
Certainly. Also, if you're stuck on a ship with someone for 6 weeks, you can't go anywhere. I've definitely had some negative experiences and was happy to part ways. But again, it's those uncomfortable moments that a lot of growth can come from somebody pushing you and learning how to exist with someone that doesn't see the world the same way you do. It's a really important skill. It's something I talk to my kids about all the time. And I feel like as adults, we also need to learn how to work with people who don't agree with us and see the world the same way.
Challenges, Logan.
Yes, absolutely, plenty of challenges. Some that, different people left or aren't involved anymore, and so you don't have to worry about it, but also lots of learning opportunities. And like Bex was saying, it can be a challenge, but it's hopefully it's a great learning opportunity for all parties involved to kind of navigate through the stumbling blocks. So I guess in my experience, I've had some not great situations, but I've been able to work through it one way or the other, and be able to continue working with that teammate. So.
Yes.
I know business growth in Putney seems to be, I don't see any growth. I see a lot of deterioration of businesses in town. Any ideas on how to encourage businesses to come into town, or the ones that are in town, how to help them expand?
I've been looking on Discover Putney, I think it's called, and like reading as much as I can about the revitalizing of downtown. I have to admit, I don't have any like grand plans right now. I do think that it's important to take care of the businesses in Putney, and that there shouldn't be ideally, any empty storefronts or businesses that are floundering, but I've never started my own business, so that's not a place that I have a ton of expertise, but it's definitely something I would want to learn more about.
I don't know for sure, but I would imagine for some of the businesses, finding and affording a space in town to either rent or own is going to be it's always a roadblock, kind of for any business. But I know that in town, like rent can be expensive, and I don't know if there's anything really that can be done on the town side of that. But in general, whatever the town can do to kind of support someone who wants to start a business, in any other way, by not raising costs. Three of the articles to vote on at town meeting are around 1% local tax, and that is a revenue generator for the rest of the taxpayers, but it also is it is a cost that gets passed on, but it's still, I would imagine, takes more time for businesses to manage that, and it's money that has to go out of their pocket. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Yes.
I just was curious about what you self-identify as some of your own strengths and challenges, and how that will be, I guess, how you're going to manage that or be reflective about that in this position.
Strengths, I guess. I really, enjoy working as a group. I like learning from people and being involved, and kind of having discussions and hearing what people have to say. Weaknesses, one is I don't have any experience doing this, so that's a weakness. I'm looking forward to learning more about it. I think sometimes thorough communication I can have a hard time with once in a while. Just like everyone, get busy and forget to respond to something. So that's something that I constantly, I just have to set reminders for myself and be consistent with a routine on just following up and responding.
I think a strength is I'm a good listener. I find that people are always drawn to come and like vent or cry to me. I don't know if it's maybe that I always work in a kitchen, but for some reason it feels like that is where people are pulled, and I welcome it. I really like being a place where people can bounce ideas and process things. I would also say weakness is that I have not done this job before. But a strength is I don't mind admitting when I don't know something and seeking out advice and the answers if I can't find them myself.
What else? Yes, okay.
Yeah, I just wondered, when you all look at our current select board, you know, it's important to have a variety of different skill sets and people and things like that. And I wonder what uniquely you feel that you could add to the select board, something that we don't have, that you might bring.
I would think that. I think one of my favorite things that people have said to me since I said I was running was, it's so nice to have young people. I don't know about you, Logan, but I don't get that anywhere else. So that's charming and very, very nice. I have kids at Putney Central. I feel like that is something about me being so very young. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely the comment of someone young running is, I've heard that one a few times. You know, I don't know the background of every other select board member. I just know I have a background in forest management and like kind of a lot of outdoor work, and I've got a lot of specific skills that come with that, and I'm hopeful that some of those may translate into some of the stuff that has to be dealt with on a day-to-day basis.
Other questions? Yes.
What would you change about Putney?
What would you change about Putney? That's a good question.
That's a good question. What would I change about Putney? I think, you know, Lynn's question around business in town. I think if I could, you know, wave a magic wand, it would be to, you know, kind of fill all the storefronts maybe in town with like healthy, vibrant businesses. The restaurants that are here and the stores that are here are great, but I think it would be really nice to see other businesses in the storefronts and like see that kind of activity in town.
I feel like there's and other folks have mentioned that they feel there's a pretty significant divide within Putney. And my partner and I have been to the food shelf, and she says, there are people here I don't see anywhere else that we move in. They're not at the community dinners, they're not at the other events, but they're our neighbors and we don't know them. We're similar in so many ways. You know, I sat at the Mockingbird and had a beer with this really charming farmer who reminded me of my dad because he was like dressed in flannel and swore with a very thick accent. And I've never met him anywhere else, but he is also my neighbor. And I don't know how to bridge that divide of a lot of us versus them and where you live and how you vote and what your job is. But I feel like if I could change that, I would.
All right, I saw your hand first,
Okay.
Candace.
You gave me the language for my question because I was trying to find it. So in a climate where there are diversity, equity, inclusion, justice programs being shut down, and we have diversity in the communities that we exist in our towns, how would you interface with that divide, with the us versus them, with people that don't necessarily look like you or have the same beliefs as you or the same sexuality or any and all of that? How do you work with that in yourself, and then how do you bring that as a leader to Putney? How would you imagine?
Well, I feel like I'm a young, so I'm told, queer person, so I live on like one side of things, but I'm also somebody who grew up with a commercial fisherman for a father. I grew up in a town that was actually very similar to Putney, and I felt like I was deeply rooted in both ends of it, and I really got to exist feeling accepted in both worlds with blue collar folks and people who didn't vote the same way that I was, and my grandparents who also raised me, who were on the school committee and very active and political in our town, and had very different values. And both of those groups of people who voted differently and did not agree and lived very different lives and worlds were both my people. So it's been interesting because I feel really connected to both sides of that. I don't know how to bridge it. I mean, I'm doing that like even in my immediate family. It's a constant work, but it's really important. So I don't have an answer outside of it. It's something I care a lot about and would work really hard towards helping people see each other with kindness.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was brought up in a household that, kind of had open, I guess however you want to word it, open arms or open dialogue with all walks of life, and never really any discrimination in any fashion. And that I try to live my life like that. I'm open to all kinds of people around me, and I enjoy learning from different people. So I don't have like a great rah-rah speech on that, but I just want to work with everyone in town and do everything we can to work together to kind of the common good. So.
Candace.
I'm really naive, and I don't know what divide you mean when you're talking about the divide in Putney. What is the us versus them?
I think a lot of it is about economics and about where you, from what I've heard, a lot of people are like, well, you live in the village. I live out here, wealthy, blue collar, I think. And there could be a lot of different divides, but I feel like that is the thing I've heard. Multiple people have asked me a lot about how to connect with people, and also conservative, liberal.
That was a question that was directed to Bex, so I made the comment, but I don't know if you have any response to what Candace asked.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
really.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Thanks.
Other questions? Yes.
I'm curious, just from a philosophical point of view, what you think of the role of town government is. Like, what is the job of town government? Or if that seems weird, like, what is the role of larger government? What should government be doing? Pretty broad.
I think I interpret it as, trying to take the voice of the townspeople and kind of be that vector to make decisions around big and small things within the town. I feel like that's the primary thing, is that we're Selectboard, the town manager, everyone in town is really like working for the townspeople and trying to listen to all the different opinions and wishes and trying to funnel that in a positive manner. I think fundamentally that's kind of what I think about when I think about town government.
I think from at least a lot of the select board meetings, it's a lot of budgeting. It's a lot of money management, which is really impressive. It's also a gathering space for, I feel like, really committed folks who are seeing beyond themselves. It's hard to, because I keep thinking, well, like managing money isn't why I said I wanted to run on the select board. I do find that part fascinating. I did really enjoy learning about all of our budget, but it's a place, my oldest kid, when I explained what the role was, they said, so these are the town elders, these are the people who protect Putney, and I feel like I'm gonna just steal that from my 6-year-old. That's what I think it is.
Thank you. Other questions? Eileen?
I don't know if you know this, but we are constantly struggling with not only people to run for select board, and thank you both for doing that, but also volunteers for other committees and commissions. Do you have any ideas on how we could get more volunteers?
I feel like with this, a lot of it is people talking to each other. I'm not on social media and I don't use any of those platforms, but I feel like it's the connections when you get passionate people speaking to each other. So beyond that, beyond like meeting people and telling them and bringing them in, I was out at a dance in Brattleboro with like earplugs in, talking to somebody who went to one conservation committee meeting, and I was like, you should get more involved in Putney. So, and they just moved above the diner. They're a young couple and they're really, really lovely.
Nice.
So go out dancing and scream about it, I guess. I mean, just trying to bring probably young people like me and Logan, to get them to care about these things I think that might be our best way.
Thank you.
It's a struggle that across the country that towns and fire departments and lots of organizations are experiencing lots of struggles with how to get people to be more involved, and so there probably isn't one magic answer, but yeah, I think just communicating as much as possible from all of us that know there's that need, conversations, flyers at the co-op, just as much of that as possible. But aside from saying you get paid $100,000 to sit on the committee, even that probably wouldn't solve the problem. So I think just doing as much as we all can to encourage and support it.
Janice, I saw your hand in there.
So this is a follow-up to that question, and I know this has been asked at other select board forums. So one of you is going to win the seat, and the other one will continue to stay engaged, I assume. And is there a committee, one of our many committees that has space that you'd be interested in joining, or commit to joining one if you don't, you can't work as a member of the select board?
I think it's the Conservation Commission, I think is the name. That would be one that I would have interest in if I don't
I'll
win.
give you and carry your name.
This is on TV.
Making notes. We'll give it to her.
And I probably would run for one of the open seats next year again if I didn't win. So.
I just listened to a brave little state about cemeteries. So for sure, I would do that. And also housing, I would really like to work towards that. Work with as many people and hear all these great ideas. That report that just came out, which I cannot think of what the name is, Sue Coakley presented it, the
Moines Housing Study.
Thank you. That was really, really interesting, and I would definitely like to learn more, so.
I'm going to address my question to Eileen,
Whoa.
but you're going to answer it.
I'm not here. Okay, go
So
ahead.
you almost took the words right out of my mouth. I was thinking, in response to some of the comments here, how do we bridge that gap? And I'm thinking maybe what we need to do is do something to engage everybody with some kind of good trouble. You've heard that term, good trouble. And maybe it's to create a little fun controversy of some sort, something that would engage people and get them excited to come down to the select board meetings. I was thinking more in terms of just
A fake one?
We have plenty of our own.
to throw something out that would get people to come down to the select board meetings. I mean,
Food.
I don't come to all of them either, but I mean, because I'm busy doing my own
Are
thing.
you trying to say they're boring?
Not
Anyway,
always.
my
No,
point is,
I hear you.
I'm asking them,
Yeah.
what could we do to bridge those different sides that you're talking about? Yeah, they're out there, we know they're out there, but we're not talking to them, we're not bringing them together. How do we bring them together to a select board meeting or to a community gathering? People, 200, 300 people come to meetings sometimes. Or there might be 3 or 4. So I'll throw that out to you. Do you have any ideas, since you've thought about that a little bit, maybe there's something to explore?
Well, since it's addressed to you, well, go ahead, Beth.
It's really not the most probably appropriate answer, but I was like, well, the beer I had with Bill, that really made things comfortable. That's a really good question, and I feel like I should ask my 6-year-old because they seem to know. It feels like there are a lot of, like, Pierce's Hall, there are dances, there's community dinners. It's not for a lack of trying. I feel like there really is good momentum for trying to build community. And outside of saying, like, no to puppies, come down to the select board meeting unless you agree, down with puppies. I don't really know, but I feel like that's something I will keep thinking about.
Yeah, I don't have a magic answer for that either. But just doing, those of us who are involved, like continuing to be involved, and then talking to your neighbors and encouraging people to come to the community dinners and be a part of it, and hopefully continue that momentum in that fashion.
Yeah, Candace?
I was just thinking about those community dinners that we had at Putney Central, and I don't
Oh, the
know.
lantern dinners.
Yeah, that was a huge success, but I don't remember why it stopped.
It hasn't stopped. They're still going on.
At Putney Central, the big huge tables outside?
It's a little different.
The
It's
full
different.
moon one instead of the lantern one.
Yeah. Putney Central hosts it instead of whoever was hosting before. Sorry. Christopher, yeah.
When was it?
It was in the fall
It's the fall sometime.
fall?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's the publicity.
Yeah.
Go next year. It'll probably happen again.
Well, could we advertise better? Because I have no idea.
I think they changed the name, that confused people, but,
Actually, we had a question back here.
The idea of age keeps coming up, and as we all know, Vermont is an aging population. I'm wondering if either of you have ideas about how to attract and keep, more importantly, keep younger people involved in Putney, and also involved in, stuff like this.
And what was the last part?
Stuff like this, like community involvement.
Well, I guess in my experience and how I view things, like in order to live somewhere, you gotta be able to afford to live there. And that means having, a steady, good paying job and affordable housing and affordable stores and, it's a tough area for that. Putney is not the easiest town for a young starting out person or couple or whatever it is. But I think if we want to encourage that you gotta have that. You gotta have work and housing and affordability. And then I think being comfortable and all of that, well, it kind of goes both ways, but having comfort in having a place to live and a good job, lets people think about how they can become more involved. You got a little bit of time maybe and energy to be involved, so I think all that kind of can go hand in hand.
I would say housing, buying a house here was really the hardest thing I've ever done. And that's not for a lack of doing hard things in my life. It's hard when there's nowhere to live. But I guess once folks do find their way here, the community events I think are really vital. And my partner and I would always say Putney is powerful when we first moved here. It felt very welcoming. It felt like a very vibrant place where this town shuts down the main road for the kids to go trick-or-treating. They have a community dinner every month. This is so cute. It's a very sweet place to live. I think that leaning into that and how to get younger folks to stay before they come back and start their families, that I don't know if Brattleboro is a pretty nice nightlife sometimes. Yeah, I would say just having housing feels really like the biggest thing. How do young people find a place to live here?
Thank you. Got a question back there, and there was a question over here somewhere. Okay. Daniel.
Yeah, how do you currently get a gauge on how the people, you're representing the people who elect you to be on the select board, so how are you going to know what the people want you to vote on? How do you get your news and stay up to date, that kind of thing?
Outside of talking to my friends and family and people that I'm involved with, now that I've been running and my email is out, people just email me, tell me all sorts of things, which I would continue to welcome. I've done a bunch of sitting down at the co-op and the G-store to meet with people, and I would continue to do that if folks wanted to talk to me about anything, select board or not. It really, talking about myself is very awkward. It's not the most fun part of all of this, but connecting with people has been really lovely. So I would welcome to continue doing that.
Yeah, spending time in the community and being open to conversation and putting myself out there and introducing myself to people and just being available is, I think, the biggest thing you have to do.
We probably have time for one more. It's been almost an hour. The questions have been really thought-provoking, and I appreciate the candidates' responses. So let's one or two more. Yes.
This is an odd question, but what can you talk about? What brings you joy?
I like spending time with family and friends. I like doing stuff outside. I don't sit around a lot, so I enjoy working and staying busy, and that it means a whole lot of things, not just at my job, but shoveling my neighbor's walk or whatever it is. I just enjoy being out there and being around people.
Moments of quiet. I've got 2 small kids. I would say I really have been enjoying walking. I do Sand Hill a fair bit. Right now the thing that makes me the happiest is there's a white hawk. Cystic? One of the white red-tailed hawk, and I feel like every time I see that it's joy. It is absolute pure bliss, like magic from childhood when I see that soaring around.
Well, that's we've seen.
One more? Seeing no hands, I would say thank you to the candidates. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you to Daniel for organizing.
So we've got some time to mingle while tables and things get put away. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you.